I've never been a big fan of sports. Maybe it was because I don't have the memory of being a sports fan as a kid, like most people do. And I just never really understood the idea of rooting for a group of men and cheering for their outcome that didn't really have anything to do with my life. And of course, I get the idea of being inspired by a single player who shows class performance and elegance during matches. But I was never heavily invested in the outcome of which team wins the championship or not. But nowadays, there is the World Cup in progress. And I'm seeing a lot of news and posts online regarding the South Korean national team and how we failed as a nation by being knocked out of the group stages so early on. And most of the things I'm seeing online are quite negative, as it happens to be the case that everyone thought we were going to advance to the next round, right? We're going to be in the tournament round, but we couldn't do that. But since we dropped out, people are triggered. And when Koreans are triggered, we always look for a scapegoat, a target to point our fingers at and throw banana peels at, because it is so embedded in our nature to gang up on the source of nuisance, to find one single person to blame. And that target is, of course, the national team head coach, Hong Myung-bo, and also the Korean Football Association, or KFA, but especially Hong Myung-bo is getting all the blame at the current moment. And it might sound like I'm criticizing those who are raising their voices against the failed coach and KFA, but that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm talking about the bird brains and the sheep herds that don't have an opinion of their own and just follow the popular narrative. You know, just because there's negative press about the national team coach, people are just joyfully hopping on the bandwagon and chastising him for his failure. And of course, with great anticipation comes great responsibility, and you are expected to be criticized if you don't create the results at this level, right? But it's just peculiar how the entire nation is just singularly obsessed with one man. And, you know, we are all obsessed with this sports event that happens every 4 years. And you know what's funny? Even the president of Korea, the Korean president, posted a critical comment berating the lack of leadership and the disappointing result on the coach's end. He mentioned the coach. The president himself came out on social media and publicly put a target on the failed coach. Right? I mean, the farm owner himself just validated a public attack on a single citizen. You imagine what happens next. Just like dim-witted, asinine little farm animals, people are starting to hop on this algorithm, making all these unnecessary posts online. You know, just a couple of trolls online poking fun at a public figure, you know, that's understandable. That's manageable. But it's not just the trolls. It's the entire freaking nation. And you know what's happening? Even the news channels and legacy media are just pouring gas into the fire by making all these shorts, making all these speculative videos about dissonance and arguments within the team. Gossip, rumors, useless slop for the masses to feed on and regurgitate. You know, they freaking started and are fueling the whole bullying culture right now, man. And you got to think carefully about why they're doing it, because there's always a reason. Why are they trying to make this a big issue? Because the whole thing is just politics. Everything is about power and control. They're setting the narrative every single time. Every single time. It's the whole Starbucks shit all over again, and I'm sick of it, bro. Everything's a distraction. The stuff about the World Cup is just slop meant to throw people off, to make people forget about the election incident that happened on June 3rd, to make people forget about all the corruptions going on inside the nation, to manipulate people into being a part of mob mentality obsessed with stupid shit like this. You know, I don't watch the news. I don't watch the news in Korea anymore because everything's a propaganda. They set the narrative and tell us how to think. And they're not even trying to hide it anymore, man, because we all, as a nation, get on our knees and open our disgusting mouths wide open regardless of the crap they stuff down our throats. You know, and the president, news channels, politicians, they all do the same thing. Every opportunity they get, you know, and this time the opportunity is the World Cup and the head coach. And people buy it all the frickin' time. All the frickin' time. That's why they keep doing that shit. Our country's way too deep in it now. I'm telling you guys. We're way too deep. We are 99% successfully synchronized by the national algorithm. And there is no going back from this. There is no chance. We can't think on our own. And we were never really able to think on our own, to be honest. Social media and technology just expedited the already existing hive mind process. We eat what we are told to eat. We buy what we are told to buy. We think what we are told to think. There are no philosophers here in my country. There are no thinkers. There are no independent people. There are none. There are only politicians, merchants, and the fellow flock of farm-bred chicken that worship power and money.